Bring bear stuff. 59.
Are you gonna do it all day?
What we were saying, it's the longest minute of the day. I don't work there. If it was satellite, it would.
All right. Ooh. Okay, let me call this St. Charles County Council meeting to order. Just one announcement. As you folks are leaving, our automatic doors that have just been installed are not quite working properly. So, if you just push them, they're working like regular doors until we get them adjusted. We will begin tonight's meeting with an invocation given by Manny Macias from Pentecostal Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Matt Swanson. Please rise.
Would you bow your heads with me and pray? Lord, we love you, and Lord, we praise you, and Lord, we worship you. You are our healer and our provider. You are everything that we need when we need it, God. And today we ask that you give us wisdom today as we help govern this city, Lord. Give Matt, Joe, Mike, Terry, Dave, and Nancy, and Tim wisdom while they govern our city, God. Anoint their minds, anoint their hearts, Jesus. And God, I ask that you place a hedge of protection around our families and our children. And I rebuke every unclean spirit that would try to wrap itself around our families and our children. And we ask this all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Matt Swanson.
Here, ma'am.
Councilmember Joe Brazel. Here. Councilmember Mike Yillem.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Nancy Schneider. Here. Councilmember Tim Baker.
Here.
All right, we will begin tonight with public comments. Just a reminder that public comments are limited to 3 minutes, and the timer will be here. We also will try to limit the number of speakers to 3 for, and 3 against. But if we do have a subject that requires more, then we can go ahead and do that. So, first speaker,
Brenda Webb.
Ms. Webb.
I have a video for them to queue up. Okay, I'm Brenda Webb from St. Charles.
Yes, sure. It's playing on this. Oh, it's playing on this screen down below here. Yeah, it's right here.
Can you?
Yeah, could we? We'll get.
There you go. No. Yes, we'll try that. Can we ask the folks back behind to restart this, please? It's not playing. It's stuck.
Yeah, we'll restart it here for you. Like I say, it's perfect here on the screen that I'm looking at, except for none of you folks can see that.
Right. We could all come stand up here.
No, that's the other one. No, still. Just wait. Yeah, we'll get you. There you go.
It's just not syncing.
Yeah, it's a projector problem.
Oh. Okay. Always something, right?
Yeah.
Start the clock again, too.
Oh, yeah, we will. Yeah.
Okay, it was there.
It's always on.
How do you start it?
Here we go.
So what Marcus told me is to say that correction. He said that they went in their own machine, all machines, 100%. So what Marcus told me is to say that correction. He said that they went in their own machine.
It's rebooting it, it looks like, reloading.
And they cut the box and kept telling them where they had all the OEOs, ballot tabulators had RCs. RJ, Blake Blackjack, the Ethernet, we put.
Working down there. Okay.
It's useless because it's wires are physically.
Tell you what we might do here. Why don't we allow another speaker and then we'll have them get going with it and then we'll bring you back. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
There's like 3 of us in a row that want to talk
Okay.
together, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Maybe just go to a different topic.
Yes.
And come back to this.
Yes. Okay.
Rachel Homelak.
I think we're going to go with the folks for the library first and then we'll come back to this, okay? All right.
My name is Rachel Homelak, and on Monday, May 22nd, I took my 4-year-old son to the Catherine Linneman Library branch. I was shocked to see a male employee sitting behind the children's desk with facial hair, wearing hot pink eyeshadow, mascara, nails painted, and giant black hoop earrings. Immediately, my son and I left because I felt unsafe and needed to protect my child. I called the library because I was very concerned about this. I was connected with the CEO, Jason Kuhl. He was unprofessional and insulting. He completely dismissed me, defending the right of this man dressed in makeup in the children's department. Jason claims not one person had ever complained about this. Hard to believe in a heavily conservative county. He agreed to meet me in person on the issue. 4 days later, I arrived to the library for my meeting. I was shocked to see a huge crowd of LGBT protesters, the media, and 5 police officers. Not just officers, police cars. I was so upset to see this. And it was challenging trying to dodge the media just to get into the meeting with Jason. Then I come to find out that the meeting had been canceled, to which I was never informed of. Turns out he was on the second floor watching me and taking photographs of me, but refused to come and talk to me. I was verbally abused and threatened by so many that day. Now my face is on the front page of the Post-Dispatch, spewing false information about me and that there was a clash of protesters. That is a bold-faced lie. There was no protesting on my side whatsoever. Now my name is in articles from Montana all the way down to Georgia. How in the world can things turn like this when all I asked was for a meeting? Up on the projector, that's not working, I will show you. This is a copy. This here is a copy of the City of St. Charles, City and County St. Charles mission statement for the libraries. And one of their values, they specifically state, we are inclusive and provide access to all. Does that all include me? It also states we respect diverse perspectives. Does that respect my conservative perspectives? It doesn't appear to. Also, did you know that the St. Charles Libraries has been signed up with a highly progressive organization called the Urban Library Council? Out of over 123,000 libraries, St. Charles is one of the 160 systems that is signed up for this. And yes, we, the taxpayers, pay over $10,000 a year to be on this list.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Claire?
Terry Bell.
Terry Bell? Okay, there you go.
I was going to kind of follow along with this group, but I'll go ahead of them. Okay. Before taking oath of office, every elected official of the county takes an oath or an affirmation that he will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Missouri and demean himself faithfully in office. Recently it was discovered, which you will see briefly, about the election authority cutting wires on the tabulator machines in St. Charles County. At an informal gathering between elected officials and cyber experts, it was determined that the election authority didn't document this by placing notices on the machines or by any documentation. The citizens of St. Charles deserve to know the reasons behind the decision to cut these wires, and they need transparency of how this moves forward. I believe by their cutting the wires proves two things. Electronic voting machines do have connectivity to the internet. Why would they see the need to cut wires if it wasn't connected? And two, their actions of cutting wires invalidates their certification of machines because there's no knowledge or validation of the procedure they performed. There's no reports, no recertification, no documentation of modifications after a change to the hardware. There's no transparency for the citizens. What concerned me about Mr. Barr's statement that day, which you will see in the video, he made a comment in reference to the expert's suggestion that they should have taken measures to validate what they had done for the sake of transparency and what was actually done to the machines for the record. His comment was, "Why should I care? Why should I care?" I am absolutely sure that the citizens of St. Charles County care about how elections are fair and secure, and that the people want to be able to trust the election authority. After hearing their comments and understanding what they had done, I'm not sure how the people of St. Charles County can trust a system that across the country we see vulnerabilities that can also come to Missouri, especially when an election authority takes it upon themselves to make changes to a vulnerability they didn't want to admit to in the first place. Eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. This is why I'm here today. People want to be involved in free and fair elections. There needs to be accountability and transparency in our elections, and we cannot have that when the election authority takes actions without following procedures that were already set forward. Trust, respect, and loyalty. Trust is granted, not earned. Respect is given, and loyalty is demonstrated. Betrayal of any one of these is going to happen with the loss of all three: trust, respect, and loyalty. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I apologize, the cards got out of order. I have one more speaker on the library, Ken Gontars.
Okay.
County Executive Element, Council Board members. My name is Ken Gontars. I'm a conservative and a concerned patron of the St. Charles community. Recently, a mother in our community went to Catherine Linneman Library to get a library card for her son. When she went to the children's desk to apply for the card, she felt uncomfortable with the appearance of a library staff worker. He was wearing gaudy eye makeup, fingernail polish, large black hoop earrings. Feeling uneasy, the mother took her son and walked away. The mom then contacted the library to set up a meeting with an appropriate official to discuss the matter. Mr. Jason Kuhl, the library system CEO, called the mom, and a meeting was set for this past Friday at 9:30. On Friday morning, supporters of the LGBTQ community and the conservative community had assembled on opposite side of the libraries. 5 police officers were assembled to keep the peace. Mr. Cool unilaterally canceled the meeting. The mom is trying to reschedule the meeting. Upon doing research of Mr. Cool, it appears that he supports and advocates an active socialist agenda. He reposted the following: by targeting public libraries, Republicans and other far right-wing groups have not only launched an attack on the principles of free speech, diversity, inclusion, and access to knowledge, they're also taking direct aim at library workers themselves. Whether they're pushing for increasingly draconian book bans on queer and trans authors and authors of color, violently protesting drag queen story hours, or directly threatening library workers, far-right activists are creating a hostile work environment for the nation's librarians, administration, and other workers, unquote. In addition, the St. Charles County Library System, of which Mr. Cool is the CEO, pays the Urban Library Council, headquartered in Washington, D.C., over $10,000 per year. This organization's website states that it believes in structural racism, systemic inequity, and social injustice within the libraries across the community. I refer you to the Urban Libraries Organization website. Note, St. Charles has joined only 2 other cities in Missouri, St. Louis and Kansas City, as the only library systems in Missouri to be members of this social activist organization. Does our community want its tax dollars to fund the library administration and leadership who desires its advance and promote a progressive social agenda? I ask this council to help continue in providing a respectful, safe, inviting, and comfortable library experience for all of our community members without advancing a political agenda, and that the St. Charles County system sever its ties with this organization.
Thank you, sir.
We have no more library.
No more library.
Okay,
Then I would say if they're ready.
I think we can give this a whirl now, I hope.
Hopefully.
Hey, sorry, it's rebooting right now. We're trying to-
Okay, thank you.
So we got to another speaker.
There we go. Let's keep your fingers crossed.
So Marcus told me to say this correctly. He said that they wanted all machines, and they cut the box. Some of the market, all the OPOs, the ballot tabulators had are they 45 Jack? The Ethernet, we put a device in that and broke it, as well as opened the machine, and we physically cut the wires going from my motherboard to the jack. So they have physically been damaged to the point where they're not.
That's going slow. It's going slow.
Even if somebody plugged it in a network, it's used as a wire.
I think it's on the side.
there's a pencil line, yeah, that you did it on 100% without having it on there. There are certain components that you can't remove. For example, when they wanted to use Max, right, they had a camera on the thing. Well, we took screwdrivers, physically bashed them into something exactly the way you did. But what we did for every monitor that was done, every time was recorded, every time the procedure was done, and that was in the report. This covers you from a procedural level. Because how you do it.
This is less than a 3-minute video.
But you didn't even do the report. That's what you was telling me. So I'm only bringing this up because you have to document what you're saying and your cover. It's how you even did 100%. Because, well, so what you talk about last night. So my question is, why do you because that pretty much is validates your certification. That's your requirements.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the problems. It should have just
Appreciate your
played.
patience.
Marion Boatright? Oh, sorry.
All right,
Okay,
all right, thank you.
Claire?
Marion Boatright.
Hi, I'm Miriam Boatwright. I believe most St. Charles County public servants want safe, secure, transparent elections. I believe we have a different idea about how to get there, but that's a conversation for another day. Today, I want to discuss election concerns as a tax-paying citizen. My understanding, based on the March 17 meeting following the experts event, it appears our election machines may have been altered. Statutes 115.631 and .633 prohibits tampering, disarranging, altering, impairing, destroying, voting, or tabulating equipment owned or leased by election authority. 115.229 says electronic voting system may be used if approved by Secretary of State, and rules of elected officials are adhered to as follows. If any modification, deletion, or improvement is made, manufacturer, programmer, or supplier shall notify Secretary of State, and certification amendment statement shall be submitted. As a layperson reading this language, my concerns and questions are as follows. Has Missouri statutes or Secretary of State rules been violated? Have contracts been breached? Has our certification and our elections been invalidated? Does St. Charles County have any legal exposure? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the answers. This council is a governing body with financial authority. I'm asking the council and executive to open an investigation to determine what issues we may be facing and how to mitigate fallout as quickly and painlessly as possible. Investigation needs to be completed impartially and objectively by someone who has not been involved. By the way, I'm not your enemy, but your ally trying to be part of the solution. My hope is you will do the right thing to restore confidence in our elections and respectful stewardship of our taxes. Thank you.
Linda Rance.
Little pop-up, there you go.
Not a video, but there's a PowerPoint. Oh,
Yeah.
there it is. Look how fast that started. Thank you. My name is Linda Rance, and I'm speaking because I was the primary host of the private breakfast event where the video that you just saw was taken. All costs for that event were covered by private citizens. There was no cell phone video, no hidden cameras. There were 2 cameramen present with cameras on tripods. And attendees included St. Charles County citizens and some elected officials. Now, in April of 2022, you'll remember that there was an issue at the Augusta polling place with election judges. In a KMOV article, the election director said, "When I come across fraud like this, I immediately report it to the authorities." He also spoke about public perception. His biggest concern is the public perception of the elections and how they're conducted in St. Charles County. However, when we did a public event in March of this year with cyber experts, a nonpartisan event, free and open to the public, we were then found out that it's being considered not public and that the council members who had signed the contracts are probably going to have to cover all of the thousands of dollars of expenses because it's considered not public. On the other hand, shortly after we put out a flyer for our event, The election director sent an email out to all St. Charles County elected officials from all different, called the delegation, and they were invited to a private tour of the election facility. Some members here actually attended that tour. I contend that that's a closed meeting. I don't know if it was announced as a closed meeting, but we will look into that further. One member of this council wrote to me and said that there were 3 other council members there, several county and state and elected officials. That means it is not a public meeting, but that council member said, I am completely convinced in how the St. Charles County elections are run. I hope that at that tour, that the machines were opened and the motherboards inspected and any of those wires that were cut were shown. A constituent, a citizen of St. Charles County, wrote to the election director asking about cutting the wires. The response was the comments made at the breakfast event were euphemisms and that they apologized for any confusion from those. Euphemisms? Well, let's look at some of the items or the text that you saw from that video, some of the comments that were made. Not quite euphemisms, as I would call it. So is there an explanation? We've heard euphemisms. We've heard, I'm sorry, let me go back. Want to catch that one? We've recently heard that everything said was to trick the experts and that the vendor did the work. We're hearing multiple excuses now at this point. What we want to know, if the public perception is so important to how elections are run here, why is there one event for the public and a different event for elected officials? The perception is no good. What we want is trust. And we want an investigation. Okay, immediately, I'm going to skip through this to get to the point. 2 different things, I don't want to lose the time. In a trust investigation, it cannot be internal, a federal agency, a vendor. It has to be credentialed, knowledgeable, full disclosure, and please produce the engineering change order that you say was done. We want trust. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Byron Keelan.
My name is Byron Keelan. I'm the president of the Freedom Principle Missouri, and the Freedom Principle Missouri has called on Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft to investigate Kurt Barr, St. Charles County Board of Election Director, and Mark Parkinson, Deputy Director, for potentially violating Missouri statutes regarding alleged tampering with electronic voting machines. The alleged tampering claims stem from the breakfast meeting on March 17, 2023, in which Mr. Barr and Mr. Parkinson discussed the security of electronic voting machines with noted election security experts Clay Parikh and Clint Curtis and other voters. We contacted the Secretary of State's Ashcroft office, and he is aware of the allegation, and the Secretary of State's office is investigating potential violations. The breakfast meeting was part of the St. Charles Town Hall meeting organized by St. Charles County Councilman Joe Brazel. The town hall was called Ask the Experts about election security. During the discussion, Mr. Barr and Mr. Parkinson admitted that they opened the Open Elect Voting Optical Scan, or OVO, of the Unison voting solution machines and the tabulating machines. According to the video, Mr. Parkinson stated, "We put a device in that and broke it, as well as opened the machines, and we physically cut the wires from, I guess, the motherboard to the jack, so they physically have been damaged to the point where they are not functional." Now, this could be a clear violation of one of 3 Missouri statutes regarding tampering or defacing voting equipment. Section 115.3631, Section 16, Statute 115.633, Section 2, and Missouri Statute 115.635, Section 11. Specifically, Section 115.633, Section 2 specifically states, willfully tampering with, disarranging, defacing, materially altering, impairing, or destroying any voting machine or automatic tabulating equipment owned or leased or loaned to an election authority is a Class 2 election offense and deemed a felony not connected with the exercise of the right of suffrage. We believe this is a clear violation of this statute, and Mr. Barr and Mr. Parkinson should be held accountable for their actions. In addition to the Secretary of State investigation, we did contact Councilman Brazel to see if there were any violations of any service agreements or contracts between the county and the vendor. This could result in your county being responsible for thousands of dollars in penalties and damages. So the right to vote and the right to vote to have the counted are essential to election integrity. Missouri residents must have confidence in the electoral system processing and results. This is why the Freedom Principle of Missouri has made election integrity one of its priorities, and we will continue to make it our priority in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's the final speaker on elections and on the sheriff, Jen Olson.
Hello. I'm here tonight to implore this council to take the first step in restoring the full constitutional power to the office of sheriff. Per Article 9, Section 102 of the county charter, we may make an amendment one of two ways. One would be citizen signatures, and the other is by ordinance adopted by the county council and submitted to the voters at a regular or special election, and approved by a majority of those voting on the proposition. And when approved by the voters, our sheriff's full constitutional powers will be restored as of the certification of the election. The reasons I have been given by members of this body as to why we took away the sheriff's powers almost a decade ago is that corruption was running rampant in the sheriff's department, and that the requirements to be an elected sheriff doesn't include law enforcement background. Please explain to me how we've solved either of these problems by having our county executive appoint a chief of police in lieu of the citizens electing a constitutional sheriff. Plenty of room for corruption and zero accountability to the public for chief law enforcement officer. Don't get me wrong, I like and respect our county chief of police, but the power has been stripped from the one individual who's supposed to stand between the citizens and those who seek to violate our constitutional rights, to include the overzealous and abusive federal government. Please work together and draft an ordinance restoring the full power to the office of sheriff so that the people can vote to adopt the amendment. And this time, let's make sure those ballots and USB drives don't fall off the back of a satellite truck on a dark back winding road on the way to the election authority like they did when our sheriff's powers were stripped. We need protection now more than ever. Thank you.
Arnie Dienoff.
Mr. Dino.
Thank you very much, members of the County Council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. And the first thing I'd like to address is on the consent agenda, professional services for Dwella Road Phase 2 reconstruction. Why don't we bring it in-house with our in-house county highway engineers? Spending $157,000 of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars is just ridiculous. We have these projects over and over, and you have to understand these companies make 35 to 40% profit on our taxpayer money. Parks and Recreation, I ask that this be pulled from the consent agenda. Change order number 1, Kleindock Park, an additional $1.1 million on top of the $1.6 million for a boating dock for a billionaire. It just gets ridiculous and more ridiculous with this council. So I ask that you pull that because that's an unrealistic amount of a amended contract. Axon Taser, $267,000. I thought we just bought tasers for the police department in the last 6 months. Approving variances for the Grove at Riverdale subdivision, water variance and buffers, giving favors to a large developer, Tom Hughes, is just totally unfair. Let Mr. Hughes live within the rules like everybody else. Bill number 5185, amending section 605 and 605.140 concerning uniforms of commissioned police officers in off-duty security positions. There are definite issues at the water district with public water board meetings at the East Central Water and Sewer Authority and Public Water District Number 2, where they make $25,000 salary. And these officers who work for the county are also acting as security officers and don't want to present their credentials. Now they want to wear uniforms. I ask you to defeat this bill. In all due respect, Mr. Hammond, you stated at the last county council meeting that you have to pay huge exorbitant fees to receive our information. St. Charles County is the only political subdivision who does this illegal and hiding of information. Let's face the facts, Mr. Hammond. You receive a $26,000 council salary for 25 hours of work annually, health benefits, and others, including a second pension. You also receive a logger's pension, 80% as a county employee of your average last 3 years that you served the county in the building department. It may be illegal for you to receive 2 pensions and a county salary at the same time, and I'll look into that. Mr. O'Sullivan, to my right, the county councilor, $175,000 in salary, over $50,000 in benefits. You, Mr. O'Sullivan, are in violation of our Home Rule County Charter, which requires you to be a resident of our county. You are a resident of the city of St. Louis and spend our tax dollars there 30 miles away. I am requesting per Chapter 610 of the Revised State Statute, Mr. Elman, Ms. Lycum, that I be given the final report
Thank you, sir.
of the lobbyists Mike Gibbons and Tom Dempsey for the final legislative system on our
Mr.
$250,000 and our
Mr.
return on
Dino.
investment.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Andy McKean. Andy McKean.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Yes, good evening, Council. My name is Andy McKeon. I'm a member of the St. Charles Noon Rotary Club. I'm also a member of the St. Charles Kiwanis Club, and my wife is a member of the First Capital Lions Club. All the service clubs, Rotary, Lions, Kiwanis, and Optimus clubs, have gotten together in a collaborative effort worldwide. This is a worldwide effort to celebrate volunteering, to do community and humanitarian service. It's the week of September 11th to 17th. What I gave you is a resolution introduced into the United States House of Representatives by what they call a Service Organizations Caucus, and the names of the people that introduced the resolution is on the first page. So I'm asking this council to pass a resolution to celebrate Community Week in St. Charles County. Number one, hopefully unanimous. And the idea is to encourage everyone in the county to participate in this. They can reach out to their local service group. If they know where they are, they could probably find it out maybe through your office or through their local city. I left my card on there. We're also asking, if you do a resolution, if you would commit, each one of you, to find somebody in your district, one person maybe, or a team, that I could work with, and our team, there's a team of us, I'm representing our team, could work with you to get the word out to people in your district. Now, people in here, there's a lot of people in this meeting. Any one of you that wants to help, that are in this meeting, you should contact your county council member here and volunteer. So I'm hoping if you endorse this, that you put it on your website, because I went on the county website, and there's a section for community. So I know Matt and I talked at length about it. I've talked to Joe, and I talked to Tim, and I've talked to other people. Mike, I talked to you about it. Some of you haven't talked about it yet. But we're trying to make St. Charles County a model for Missouri, and for the country, and maybe for the planet. This is totally voluntary. No one's getting paid to do this. Just think if we can mobilize Americans and people here in St. Charles County to find something to help people in our community, whatever it is. If anyone in here knows anyone that needs help, why don't we help each other? There's a lot of dissension, there's a lot of polarization in our country. What better than working together as human beings of all ilks to help people that need help? Our Rotary Club raises tens of thousands of dollars. Our Kiwanis Club is giving away $14,000 scholarships next week to kids in St. Charles high schools. We give a lot back, and we love doing it. Anyone here that's volunteered can tell you there's nothing better in life than to volunteer. I was a Peace Corps volunteer for 5 years in Africa. I volunteered 5 years of my life. I've been volunteering since I can remember. And it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. So I encourage everyone in here to participate. And if you have a website and people here that have a need, you can put it on the website and we can fulfill it by working together. It's a no-brainer. It's a good thing to do for our community. And we can then share it with other counties around the state and around the country. St. Charles County can be the model for America and for the world. Why not? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's the final speaker.
Okay. That concludes public comments. Next on the agenda is oral report from the county executive.
Mr. Chairman, the video that we saw, Joanne and I saw that several weeks ago, and after we did, we had some questions for the public.
Okay. Wait, hold on just a second here.
Let me say again that we saw that video several weeks ago, and Joanne and I asked Kurt Barr to come in. We had some questions for him. He did that. Last week, he sent an explanation, I think, to the council, which has generated additional questions. I talked to Kurt the other day about it, and he asked if he could have some time to go ahead and explain the situation, and I'm willing, if he will allow me, to go ahead and yield my time to him to make that presentation.
Certainly will. Mr. Barr? Folks, let's, before we get going here, all right? People are passionate, people are concerned, but we can't be rude. Please.
Free country, free speech.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, back in January of 2001, specifically January 26th through 28th, the authorized Unison vendor, Unison is the company that manufactures our election equipment. They came out to do a software update to the OVOs, the Scantron machines that tabulate the ballots. And while there, they were explaining to me what some of the security features to this new software update were going to do. One of the elements of that software update was to make inoperable that RJ45 Ethernet port that was originally put in there for programming for the by Unison itself when they were creating machines. Anyway, so it was asked, like, well, if this software makes this port unusable, can we simply disconnect the wire and make it where it's, nobody could even accuse anybody of plugging anything into it? And they said, yeah, that's not a problem. So the authorized vendor went in and they unplugged the Cat5 wire from the motherboard of these OVOs and then tucked it up underneath the bundle of other wires inside the OVO. So nothing was cut, nothing was broken. Unfortunately, in March of this year, during a somewhat hostile give and take between quote-unquote experts and myself and my deputy, we used language that created confusion. And I can understand why using the word cut, and specifically my deputy saying we went in there and broke it, which he was not the one who did it. It was our vendor who did the modification. Why that creates some confusion. Unfortunately, no one ever came back to the election authority to seek any clarification on our part, like, hey, what really happened? Is this what you said? And then, so that all occurred January of 2001. Then in March of 23, a private citizen held a public event at the Family Arena, which I was invited to attend, which I did. And a lot of mistruths were spoken about elections and about our Unison system specifically. The next day, another event was held, those breakfasts, where snippets of video were presented. Unfortunately, there was that one little clip of me asking the question, and it was a very honest question. I was actually trying to elicit an actual response, where unfortunately the video, my question was fuzzed out, so it didn't capture exactly what I was asking. But what I was asking is, in the meeting the night before, and at that breakfast, this quote-unquote expert was talking about documentation and how in the certification for Unison that, this particular check sheet was missing check marks. And he was making the assertion that because check marks were missing from this particular check sheet, that was, part of the package that the EAC certified for the Unison system and that the Secretary of State's office certified for use in our state, that under his opinion, that makes our system uncertified and not valid. And so I was asking the question, okay, you say these check marks aren't there. Why should I care? I wanted him to explain what was so important about this not being checked when the federal government and the state agencies who are responsible for certifying election machines were saying it's perfectly fine, it's perfectly good. And unfortunately, because my question was fuzzed out, you couldn't hear it, it makes it sound like I'm saying I don't care about our election process, our election security, when in fact I care very deeply about the fact that our process and our elections are in fact good and that they are secure and that we have a good system. Now, when I sent you that clarifying email about this process, trying to explain when we cut the Cat5, it wasn't actually with scissors or wire cutters cutting a wire, it was disconnecting a Cat5 wire. But I also gave you the attachment. The state of Ohio has a requirement to test their voting machines to see can they emit or receive Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, any type of cellular signal. And they did a study in November of 21. By they, I mean ProVNV. This is one of the two labs that the EAC certifies as the labs that can certify election machines. These are the two companies, or one of the two companies that says this meets the EAC standards for being sold in the United States. And in that test, they said that our OVOs do not connect to Wi-Fi, do not connect to Bluetooth, do not connect to cellular, never did, never can. And so when we had the Cat5 wire for that internal Ethernet port disconnected, that was just to go, it was a superfluous action to go above and beyond so that even the accusation that, well, I can get into this and I can connect into this port, no, you can't. The software had already rendered it inoperable, and by disconnecting it, it was rendered even further inoperable. It's unfortunate that in a hostile breakfast meeting, we misspoke and used words that created confusion. I do apologize for that. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to clarify what exactly happened back in 2001, that it was in fact our vendor who did it. There was no destruction of our machines, warranties were not damaged, certifications were not harmed, and that everything we did was, in 2001, was to do everything we can to make our machines as secure, extra secure as possible. We didn't tell anybody about this because there was no need to. We were just doing what we thought was the right thing to do at that time. And when we went to this private meeting in this year in March, we were going in good faith, trying to listen and trying to understand concerns by other organizations. It is unfortunate that we misspoke. It is unfortunate that they took our words and then, instead of coming back to us to seek clarification, came to you and asked that we be investigated. If you have any questions about our process, I am certainly willing to, I don't know what the process is. This is the executive's time.
I have questions, Terry.
I think we'll allow several questions, although, again, this is something that's not on
Mr.
our
Chairman.
agenda, but we're,
Can I ask one first?
Certainly.
Would you mention what you told us several weeks ago and confirmed the other day with regard to the Secretary of State?
So, are we referring to the fact that the Secretary of State has certified the Unison equipment?
No, has come in to do
Okay, yes, oh, I'm sorry, yes, thank you. So, just last week, under the new law, House Bill 1878 passed last year by the Missouri legislature, one of the things that the election officials have to do each year is to undergo a cyber audit. The Secretary of State pays for these cyber audits, and so the company known as Apollo, that used to be called Cyber Defense out of Texas, came in and did an audit of the election authority, and we discussed this particular issue with the cyber audit, and they understood the process, and they had no problems with the vendor doing this modification of unplugging the Cat5. They are currently working up the report. We'll get that in about a month's time of the findings from them as far as the rest of the audit. But most of the audit isn't about the machines themselves. Most of the audit is actually about us as a county and how IT provides support for the election authority, how the election authority and our vendors communicate with each other, and other avenues in which the election authority could be potentially compromised through that way. It wasn't specifically auditing our specific election devices, other than if they would connect to the internet, which obviously the Ohio report shows it does not. But
I think we can open up to several questions. Mr. Grass.
Mr. Barr, you made a comment about a private meeting. On this town hall meeting, I want to be very clear. We started planning this town hall meeting in February. It was me and 3 other council members who agreed to do it. It was open to the public. It was nonpartisan. And a week before the event, we were going to do the walkthrough. And we had the different groups come in to walk through the family arena. Terry Hollander called me that morning and said that Ann Donna was putting out invitations to all the elected officials in our state, inviting everybody to tell them what we were doing. It was an educational town hall meeting. So that day, Terry called me and said, I'm not sure this is a sanctioned county event. I go, well, I don't know what you're talking about, because I can have a town hall meeting anytime I want. I've had town hall meetings. I've been doing this 22 years, and I've had town hall meetings. The council members get $6,000 a month or a year for expenses. And with the 4 of us, we're going to divide it. It was about a $7,500 expense. So I felt that they were trying to tell me what I can and can't say. However, Terry was polite. We talked about it. I said, well, I'm going to continue with the town hall meeting. I went to the meeting that day. I wrote a check to deposit of $2,400 or whatever that was. And so we proceeded. We were going to continue because we already invites out. It was 1 week before the event. So we had the event on March 16th. And it turned out to be very well. I thought it was very educational. A lot of people liked it. I had Democrats even comment that they thought it was very good. And so my plan was to have a meeting with Rory the next Friday, which was the 24th. I met with Rory, Terry, Bob Hoink, and I met with our auditor, because it's not for them to tell me what I can and can't talk about as a county councilman. I can talk about wearing pink hats on Friday. It's no one else's business. I'm elected in this county. I can talk about it, and it should be expensed by the county. Well, so when we had our meeting, me and Rory had a conversation, and Terry was there listening. We didn't agree because I felt it was a county-sanctioned business, because we do pay for the machines. The county pays off. We voted for all this expenditures for his office. These are machines that I believe are not properly working. So this is county business. This does occur to county council. So we had that meeting on a Friday. I submitted the expense after our meeting, because that's what I was told to do after I met with Rory and with the Bob Hoink and with our auditor. I officially submitted it. Donna submitted the expenses. On Monday, Rory called me and said, Kurt Barr has agreed to pay for this town hall meeting. He has agreed. It'll come out of his expenses, and we'll work it out through the budget. That was 2 months ago. Okay? Friday of last week, on the 23rd of May, I sent an email to Kurt Barr. All costs, give me all costs of current voting machines, all costs of current tabulators, all costs of current iPads, costs of continual training, costs of continual maintenance, costs of storage, cost of labor, cost of square footage of the storage, cost of security on the voting machines, inventory with serial numbers, and all voting machine tabulators and iPads. I sent that email on a Tuesday at 3:39. Bob Schnurr called me at 5 and told me Kurt's not paying for the town hall meeting, that I have to pay for it now. I didn't tell you guys this yet because I was trying to work it out, but so now they're not going to pay for it. Isn't that called quid pro quo? Isn't that what that is? Because, see, and so no, this is important because the council members should know that we shouldn't be treated this way. Now that they're saying that I have to pay for it. Well, we're going to have this conversation, but the council members, the 4 council members can have a town hall meeting. They all agreed to expense it on their expenses. Now they're saying they're not going to do it because Kurt said, I know the timing is not good, but it has nothing to do with you asking those questions. And I mentioned to him, the video's not my video. I didn't put that out. I told you that 3 times. But you're just trying to kind of get back at me for this video, but whatever. Okay, that's that. That's the story. Now I want to go back to this. Your date on this, was it 2000? You said 201. You mean 21, right?
2021, yes.
2021. You said 01 multiple times. You said on the video 7 times that you guys cut the wires. And you said you broke the seals too on the video. And, sir, I can get you the full 2-hour tape. And you knew that you were being videoed. There's no dicing or any kind of manipulation of that conversation. And it wasn't hostile. Why don't you watch it again, Kurt? It wasn't hostile. We're all sitting around just talking. There was nobody raising their voice, and you said 7 times you cut the wires. Now, if that's not true, if you're saying you're lying, why? Why would you lie? Why wouldn't you said that in 2021 that that's what you did? Why wouldn't you said that? It makes no sense. It makes 0 sense, as a matter of fact. So are you lying now, or were you lying then? Right. That's my question.
So to answer that question, yes, we cut the line by disconnecting the wire.
Okay, so do you have a work order for that? Do you have a work order from the vendor? Because you don't. You would have said that in 21. So by state statute, you damaged those machines. And if you read a Unison contract, you violated that contract as well.
Under our Unison contract, the vendor has to provide maintenance, and during that time,
but
that's
you
when they
didn't. You
disconnected
did it. You did it, not the vendor. You said that 7 times. That question was asked you multiple times. So listen, I'm just telling you that none of this makes any sense. And you often said, "Oh, these can't get hooked up to the internet."
They can't.
Well, then why'd you cut the wires? Or then why'd you even attempt to have the vendor cut the wires? That doesn't make any sense. And then when I ask these questions, which I do expect them to be answered, then you say you're not paying for the town hall meeting. Bravo, Kurt. Bravo. Okay. Seriously?
Mr. Swanson.
Thank you. You said the Secretary of State is doing a full report on machines and everything else. Is that correct?
So the Secretary of State is paying for this cyber audit that was just conducted last week, and then we'll get the results in about a month is when they'll give the
Is it
results.
also a physical audit of the machines as well?
It is not a physical audit of our machines. That is done by this Pro V&V lab.
Let them speak, please. So they're coming out, the vendor's coming out, and that will be included within this report, correct?
No, there's 2 separate certification processes. Okay, so the vendor came out in 2021, and they did the software update, and then they unplugged the Cat5 wires at that time. Then in November of 21, the Unison company had Pro V&V, because the Ohio state law required it, to do a certification of the machines that we use to say, do they in any way connect to the internet by Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cell? And that report showed that no, these machines do not in any way connect to the internet. Then this year, last week, the Apollo company came in to do a cyber audit of the election authority. This particular audit focuses more on our office, our processes, county IT, my communication with my vendors, and is there any way that a malicious actor can infiltrate into the election authority. It's not specifically looking at the OVO tabulators or the iPads. However, since they were here and that this was just last week, we talked to them about the issue of when in 2021 Unison came out and did this upgrade, and explained that to them, and they had no concerns with that modification.
So with that, do you have a summary that will be given or a full report that can be then posted so the public can have full knowledge of what was said and what was done?
So I will get a report of it, and I believe a summary comes with that report. I haven't seen it yet, though.
And with that, can I ask that you post it within the Election Authority website of the report that was provided by them so the public can have full access to that? Is that?
I first need to see what vulnerabilities, if any, it shows, because if it shows that the county has a vulnerability, I want to make sure that county IT has time to patch it before we
completely
post
understand.
something.
But with full transparency, and I think that's what everybody's asking for here, is, excuse me, this is my time, not your time. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is my time, not yours. We listen to you. With that being said, I think for full transparency, that would help with this. And as somebody stated earlier, that I wrote down, and I thought was very, very good. Trust, respect, and loyalty is what Ms. Bell said earlier. And I think that's something that we would like to see, and I don't think that's asking very much of the full transparency with that. So that would be an ask, and what would be the time frame you think you could provide us with more information on that?
We have a follow-up after the 4th of July holiday, sometime that week. And so I think I get the full report at that point. So we're looking at the second week of July.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barr.
While you're at it, Mr. Swanson,
Excuse me, you know what? We've had open forum, we're not gonna have back and forth. Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Okay, anyone else?
I got one question again, Terry. I'm sorry, I'd be quick, but with what you're saying, Kurt, and if, in the chain of evidence, if you're going in there and messing with these machines now, you're tampering with evidence, because this is a crime, what you did. And so if you're going in there now to try to fix what you did, that could be considered tampering with evidence, because you should have an independent party looking at what happened. That's what you should do, if you want it to be all clear and transparent. If you have Unison come in there and do it, well, of course, they're gonna agree with you, and of course, they could give you a work order, because they don't wanna lose the business, because they got the contract with us. So if you having it, you going in there or having anything else going there, this should be an independent, free investigation.
Kurt, I've just got a quick question about the email about the funding for that meeting. Was there a reason why you changed your mind on funding that?
I never funded. I
Or
never
agreed to fund it, I should say.
So, the way I understand what happened was initially a private citizen who's a councilman just set up this meeting and put down the deposit with the family arena. After the event, it was asked of me, hey, this event occurred. The county council doesn't have the authority to hold a election-related event. The only office in the county that has the authority to do a election education event is the election authority. Would the election authority be willing to pay for this event? When that conversation occurred, I was under the impression that this was a sanctioned county event, and the question was, under whose budget should a sanctioned county event be appropriated? After that conversation, I learned that this, in fact, was not a sanctioned county event, but was a private event held by a county councilman in his capacity as a private citizen. That is a very different thing. And I do not think it is ethical for the election authority to fund an event held by a private citizen, even if he is an elected official. And so when I learned those facts, that is when I informed the executive office that I would not pay for this.
2 months later, Kurt? 2 months later, you found out?
Point of order. Good, point of order.
And he had a judge's booth at this event, signing up judges. So what are you talking about? This is such a
I believe it.
fraud.
All right. I believe
This is so disgusting.
Is there any other questions?
Well, just a comment. I mean, it just seems like there's a lot of people that are just, whether there's things wrong or not, there's a lot of people that are concerned about our election. Could we put this to the voters, or has this been put to the voters on how they, I mean, do they want to go back to manually counting, or is there other? Is that something that we can let the voters decide? If that, I mean, you know, there's a group here, but it certainly doesn't represent the 430,000 plus in St. Charles County in total. So is that even an option? And maybe that's a question for Rory.
I'm not prepared to opine on that at this time, council member.
Okay. All right. Okay, I believe at this point we've exhausted the subject, and unless you have any other comments, Mr. Barr?
No, I thank you for your time and so I could explain what we meant, even though we, you know, could have used better words at that breakfast, which, whether or not some believe it's hostile.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Anyway, thank you very much.
All right. We will move on now. to the consent agenda. Do I have any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, I have one.
Okay, Mr. Baker.
So, there's a change order on the Goodermuth project, and I just had some really, I'm trying to understand, the original contract was for $329,000.
Point of order. Are you asking to remove that and discuss it?
I'm sorry to make you hostile, but I just want
No,
to talk
sorry,
about
just-
it.
Just wanted, the process is, we'll remove it.
Yeah,
and then
we'll
discuss it
we'll
after it's
remove it,
removed.
and that's fine.
Okay.
However.
Okay, all those in favor of removing that item, say aye.
Second.
Second, we need a second. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Hammond.
Can I
It's
go?
okay. Are there any other items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I'd like to move the election authority from the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that item also will be removed from the consent agenda. Now I need a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, start off with Mr.
All
Baker. Okay.
So, I guess I just have a question. The original contract was $329,000. We did an addendum for $232,000 to save money. And I guess my question is, shouldn't we be saving money from the very beginning? But what's the reason? What's the reason for the change order of $232,000 to save money? Again, it seems like, as a design engineer, you go in to try to save money from the beginning. So I'd just like some clarification. It's a big change order.
Sir.
So our original budget, back when we originally put in for a grant for this project, I believe was around $3 million. Bids came in at 5.5.
For Goodermuth, just from, where's the limits of this exactly?
From the roundabout to
Motherhead?
Motherhead, yes.
And we've got a subdivision going in there, correct?
Correct.
Are they doing any of the road improvements as part of that?
No, I don't believe so.
Is there a reason why we're not having them do that?
I don't know that we've had subdivisions do that in the past, but.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly worked places where that's, part of what subdivisions are expected to do, but that hasn't been my experience here.
Okay.
So anyway, the bids came in basically almost double what we were expecting. Now, that was what we were expecting 3 years ago, obviously, when this process started. We were expecting around 5.1, but they came in even higher than what we were, even higher than that. So the original design was for basically 3 lanes, one of them being a turn lane, all the way through the project, which that was kind of our design standard 3 years ago when the project started. It's not what we typically do now. So in an effort to reduce costs, we're putting the profile back to where we only have turn lanes where we need them. That was a redesign to drop a lane that changes fill quantities. We were reducing, I believe we had 2 pathways, one on each side. We were dropping that to 1. I believe there was a there was a stoplight at Motherhead that was part of the project that we're not sure, we don't feel is necessary at this time, so we were going to drop that. Basically trying to get this project down into something that we can afford at this time, given that we already have funding or federal funds set aside for this project.
Is there a concern about not putting in turn lanes with additional subdivisions going in?
There will still be turn lanes where we need them. It just won't be all the way through the project. There's a large section of the project that is single-family homes right now.
Okay.
So there was really no need to have those, other than at the time that was our standard.
Was the engineer providing estimates throughout this process, even during COVID? Were they
Yes,
screwed it up that much?
we had supplied updated estimates throughout. Our most recent one prior to bidding was 5.1 million. So we knew costs were going up. We were hoping that it would still be in the realm of something we were comfortable moving forward with, but it was determined that we did not want to go forward with a project that was that much over budget.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Okay. Need a motion to accept the item that was removed from the consent agenda?
So moved.
Need a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next of all, Mr. Brazel with the Election Authority.
Oh, I was just going to say on the election authority, I guess, once again, we will be voting on something tonight that has something to do with the election authority. And so I'm just making a point, I won't be supporting it until full transparency comes to the election authority. That's just what I want to say.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept this particular consent agenda item?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
Thank you. All right, that gets us through the consent agenda. Now we have bills for final passage, beginning with bill number 5177.
Bill number 5177, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri approving variances for the Grove at Riverdale subdivision.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri approving variances for the Grove at Riverdale subdivision. Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 5177 passes. Next bill is bill number 5178.
Bill number 5178, an ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the Duello Road Phase 2 project.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the Duello Road Phase 2 project. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, bill number 5178 passes. Next bill up is bill number 5179.
Bill number 5179, an ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the Epperman Road Phase 2 project.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the Hepperman Road Phase 2 project. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Brazel?
51, bill number 5179 passes. Next bill would be 5180.
Bill number 5180, an ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the project on Hopewell Road.
Questions or comments? Seeing none.
An ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the project on Hopewell Road. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Bill number 5180 passes. Next bill is number 5181.
Bill number 5181, an ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for asphalt overlay on major streets.
Questions or comments on this bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation for asphalt overlay on major streets. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes. Okay, bill number 5181 passes. Next bill for final passage, bill number 5182.
Bill number 5182, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Wentzville for design and right-of-way for the future construction of David Heckle Parkway Phase 3.
Questions or comments on 5182? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Wentzville for design and right-of-way for the future construction of David Heckle Parkway Phase 3. Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 5182 passes. Next bill is 5183.
Bill number 5183, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute contract amendment number 006 for autopsy services with the Missouri Department of Social Services for child death autopsy services.
Questions or comments on 5183? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute contract amendment number 006 for autopsy services with the Missouri Department of Social Services for child death autopsy services. Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Okay, Bill 5183 passes. Next up is Bill number 5184.
Bill number 5184, an ordinance waiving liquor license fees for certain concessions, operations of the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of St. Charles for the period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
Questions or comments on 5184? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance waiving liquor license fees for certain concessions, operations of the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of St. Charles for the period July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Okay, Bill number 5184 passes. Next is Bill number 5185.
Bill number 5185, an ordinance amending sections 605.090 and 605.140 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri concerning the uniforms of commissioned police officers.
Questions or comments on this particular bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance amending sections 605.090 and 605.140 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri concerning the uniforms of commissioned police officers. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Bill number 5185 passes, and the final bill for final passage is 5186.
Bill number 5186, an ordinance amending section 115.710 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri to establish the position of Manager of Cyber Intelligence, authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement for a subaward agreement with the East-West Gateway Council of Governments, and amending ordinance 22-087, budget of St. Charles County, to recognize the additional revenue from this grant and establish the grant-funded position in the police department.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
I do want to just mention that
Oh,
Exhibit
yes.
A,
I am sorry, I did not, yes. Exhibit A for this bill has been received in a timely manner and is ready for the final vote. Thank you.
Well done.
an ordinance amending section 115.710 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri to establish the position of Manager of Cyber Intelligence, authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement for a subaward agreement with East-West Gateway Council of Governments, and amending ordinance 22-087, budget of St. Charles County, to recognize the additional revenue from this grant and establish the grant-funded position in the police department. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 5186 passes. Next up is bills for introduction, starting with bill number 5187.
Bill number 5187, requested by Ryan Graham, sponsored by Nancy Schneider, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute the Intergovernmental Airport Improvement Program contract agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration and acceptance of grant funds.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we move on. 5188,
And
please.
bill number 5188 is less than 3 pages, so I will read it in its entirety.
Okay.
Bill number 5188, requested by Kurt Friz, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance amending the 2023 budget adopted by ordinance 22-087 by providing a supplemental appropriation to the budget of St. Charles County Police Department. Whereas initial funds from the St. Charles County Police Department for the Range Target System project in the amount of $195,000 were programmed and appropriated in the 2022 St. Charles County budget. However, the project was not able to be completed in 2022. And whereas funding of $96,424,000 included in the 2022 budget, as adopted by ordinance 22-087 as amended, was not spent in 2022 and is now available for appropriation in amended 2023 budget. And whereas the initial funding for this project was approved in the June 13th, 2022 consent agenda, however, delays associated with the weather and the holidays resulted in the lapse of the 2022 funds originally budgeted for this purpose. And whereas the St. Charles County Charter, Article 6, Section 6.206.1, provides that the county council may, by ordinance, make supplemental appropriations if the county executive certifies that there are available for appropriation revenues or additional fund balances in excess of those estimated in the budget. And whereas the county executive has so certified in Exhibit A attached here too. Now therefore be it ordained by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the budget of St. Charles County, Missouri for fiscal year 2023 as adopted by ordinance 22-087 and the budget of Drug Enforcement Fund is hereby amended by deleting the original allocation of $281,500 in law enforcement equipment DOJ line item 266-8500-47450 and inserting in lieu thereof an amended amount of $377,924, an increase of $96,424. Section 2, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its passage and approval as set out in Article 2, Section 2.605 of the Charter, and the agreements authorized hereby shall be effective upon lawful execution.
Well, thank you, Donna. Any questions or comments on this particular bill? Okay. Seeing none, we move on to Bill number 5189.
Bill number 5189, requested by Sarah Evers, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a memorandum of understanding between St. Charles County and the Missouri Department of Corrections for the administration and reading of tuberculosis skin tests and for the administration of specified vaccinations to department employees, volunteers, and interns.
Questions or comments on 5189? Seeing none, we have the last bill for introduction, 5190.
Bill number 5190, requested by Ryan Graham, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to accept 2 grants from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources totaling $5,025 of financial assistance from the Federal Drinking Water State Revolving Fund capitalization grants for the St. Charles County Parks and Recreation Department to cap abandoned wells.
Okay, questions or comments? Seeing none, that concludes the bills for introduction. Any announcements or miscellaneous by anyone on the council? Mr. Hammond.
Mr. Dinoff, you should get your facts together next time you come to a meeting. I do not make $26,000 a year. I barely make over $19,000. And I spend at least 10 to 15 hours a week on council business. And finally, I do not receive a pension serving on this council.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any other announcements? Yes, Mr.
I'd like to apologize for Mr. Baker. I didn't mean to come across as hostile. I was just, when we remove things from the consent agenda, we remove them, then discuss them. So I just didn't want to get lost in the weeds on that. So I apologize if I came across harsh on that. Sometimes my tone is a bit biting.
That was your radio voice, I thought.
It gets a little pronounced. I apologize for that.
Any other, yes, Mr.
Just on a positive note to end with, Andy McKean, I did have a nice long conversation with him, and I think he's got some great ideas. So if the other council members haven't had an opportunity to talk with him, I highly encourage you to reach out to him and listen to him. I got a sit-down meeting with him coming up here next week, and I think he's got some really great ideas that can help our county bring us all together. Thank you.
He did. Go ahead, Mike.
On Mr. McKean's part, if you ever run into Andy, I guarantee you he will have a copy of the Constitution on him, and he would be more than happy to give you a pocket version of the Constitution. His passion is to go to schools and teach kids the Constitution. So he's a great guy. He really has given his entire life to being a volunteer. As you can hear, he's part of 3 different organizations. Now, it must be good to be retired. I hope I can be that one day.
Yes, Mr. Pratt.
Terry, he did mention that if you guys want to do a resolution supporting what he's
Yes, I
doing.
would support that.
Yeah, I think we can.
I think we all do.
I think we can get that done. Mr.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the first time I met Mr. McKean, he came and talked about the Constitution, and
Yes.
that was right when he first came to St. Charles. He's done a great job of meeting people and picking up this issue. I think we should.
He's definitely jumped in.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Need a second? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.